Now we will get into some discussion. All right. Welcome everybody who joined us. Michael, good to see you. Miss Sandra, Nick from Kenya, and everybody else. We've just gone through chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the first book of Maccabees. Let's hear about your comments. You know, like we always do, put a C put a C in the chat. And like I mentioned before, try and keep your comments to 3 minutes. When you have a minute left, I will be signaling you that you have a minute. And then you can come back your next turn and finish up or talk about any other points that you have. All right. So what are your first thoughts, or what are your thoughts on those chapters that we've just gone through?
Well, my prevailing thought, I'm sorry, I didn't see any hands, so
Go ahead.
I'll just start and say, my prevailing thought is that I can understand why it's so important for religion to deter, isolate away from the law. You know, you hear a lot in church, you were taught a lot in church, the law is done away with. The law is done away with, you know, and they tell us, you know, we're all one, but that's not what's being said here. We're not all the same people. We're not all one. And, you know, yeah, I'm just going to stop right there for now. So hopefully this will get us going on the conversation.
Thank you, Mama Matuzola. Ray, go ahead, Vanessa.
I lost my train of thought. Oh my goodness. And you know, when you look this up in history, it doesn't mention the Greek revolt. And I just want people to know that. But when you was reading it, and he said cities on the coast, and when we did a story a couple of weeks ago about how during the inland part of Africa wasn't a place to go, everybody lived on the coast. So when I'm thinking about how the Greeks were at one time the world power and where they were located in the map, you know, that Madagascar area, that was their domain, because now there are artifacts found there. And how Rome was in Capernaum, that was Rome. And you think also about history, how these empires rose when we were enslaved. Greek became powerful through us by enslaving us. We made Greek great. And then when the Romans got us, hey, listen, you control these people with their book. Let's manipulate it. Let's force. Well, at that time, it wasn't manipulation, it was force. The Greeks used force. You know, we call it bullet or the Bible, but it was the same concept. You know, and so much historical lies have been taught to us. Like the Persians came down what we call the Indian Ocean. Over there by the Horn. That's how the Persians came down. They didn't come through the interior. I mean, come on. I mean, the stories, the historical lies we've been told, and now we can line it up with scripture.
Yes. This is the puzzle coming together. It truly is the puzzle pieces coming together. Not one person has it all. It's we glean as much as we possibly can and put those pieces together. But you know, back to what Mama Matanzola just said, you know, there's a great fear of us plugging in. They know that if they keep us away from that covenant, that the commandments were everything, still are everything. And when we plug into that, he comes. You know, I'm not saying that Tatan Zombie is Godzilla, but if you remember back in the day, the two little Asian girls with and here comes Godzilla. They knew how to tap in, and that's what they were afraid of. They knew that when we obeyed, he showed up. And it's the same even now with us coming together. When we show up, stuff starts happening. It's even when we go, seriously, when we go into public places. Ray and I, while we were in France, we were traveling.
We'll get 3 minutes.
And we go into a restaurant, and the restaurant is basically empty. We look up, here come all of these people. We go to the next place. Same thing starts happening. We are beacons of light in the earth. I mean, everywhere we went, we would go into stores where there was nobody in the store. And all of a sudden, all these people would start rushing in the store. And Ray just turned to me and goes, is it something? Do we have some kind of fragrance on, or what is this? Why are these people always showing up every time we go into these places? Sometimes, y'all, we would be there hours. And when we got ready to leave, here comes a bunch of people. It was the most amazing thing. But it's because when we plug in to this wonderful covenant, that is the electricity, that's the energy, that's the frequency that calls Tata down, and he wants to sit amongst his people.
And that's why, like I read, when you're in a room, your energy activates demons.
Yeah. Yep. Causes them to get upset.
Yeah, you realize, wait a minute, what did I do to you? Those type of people.
But he doesn't attack what he does not find a threat. And we are a threat.
So to understand, the Greeks subdued us by, it's either you're going to worship our paganism, or you're going to die. And fear, I guess, was the king. In Geta.
Thank you, Ray and Vanessa. Thank you so much. Michael, go ahead and welcome Margaret. I hadn't welcomed you. Good to see you.
Good to see everyone. To continue about what Mama Matuzola was saying about the law, it was something that stood out to me too, about this law is done, but this law is done, but yet we are supposed to adhere to the law of the land, our legal system. It's the law, but yet our Creator, His law is done away with. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff that we see now as we get to look that is just fallacy. And evidently that is our strength. Once we obey our Creator, which we're supposed to do, evidently our strength grows, and He comes to our aid for being obedient. This Maccabees, man, this really is one I'm super interested in. As their father, he made a big stand. But one thing that stood out to me that is in contrast to us, or me, we didn't have anything basically culturally that was instilled in us that we followed, especially not to that extent. But just to have that, I think that would have been a big change in how as a person and as a family we grew, and our strength in each other. It would have been stronger. It'd have been more rooted in togetherness. How the family is a unit. Looking at each other as helpmate, not help for a pat on the back or something, but because of what would have been instilled in us. And we could have been going back and looking and seeing how our ancestors, they lived it. It was something they cherished. And for them to stand up to that, and the father, him knowing that and having that basically that I'm done. I'm done. We doing this the right way or no way at all. So I'm in right now, and I appreciate everything, and I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this lesson.
Ingeta, come back. You get another 3 minutes. Come back. You get another 3 minutes. Trust me, we got a lot of time for y'all. All right, I see Mama Emma was next, and welcome, Sister Matweedy. Good to have you. Good to have you. Mama Emma, and then Mama Royal daughter. Go ahead, Mama Emma.
Oh, praise the Most High. Yes, the law, and I knew we was going to focus in on that. But even around that is what they did was make new laws. They kept getting us with the thing about the law. And so now they making their own the laws. And then the other thing that Michael was saying and Ray was saying is like the key thing, what Ray said was they only succumbed because of force. They were killing them and the children and the women and shedding their blood as sacrifice. So even, you know, that awesome description of what they did to the women after they followed their new law, circumcised the children, then they killed the babies and hung them around the mother's neck and killed them. So, I mean, it's just, and then the other big thing that I'm getting out of this, again, leads me back to what Ray saying was this historical information about how they came to the continent and where they came to the continent. And this is, again, the story of Leopold and where they came from and when they came and all that they did on the continent of Africa. One of the other descriptions in the Maccabees was when it talked about, and they burned their houses and their pulled the huts and things down. Now you see pictures drawn of those African villages where they did that. At nighttime, they said they came. And what does our scripture say? The enemy comes at night in the dark, you know, and then they use that dark against us. Now we the dark and we the evil. You know, when we sleeping and resting according to what the Most High, you know, you work during the day, you rest at night, evening. So all those things. And then also reminded me of, and I have to apologize again because I didn't find that study that I did on a Shabbat, the word Shabbat in Genesis, because it says something about they were prepared for war on the Sabbath. And then we see this thing where Matthias says, I mean, the brother Maccabees says, you know, we're not going to sit here on the Sabbath and let them kill us anymore. We got to defend ourselves. And, you know, we're not going to die anymore. We're going to defend ourselves. And that's what, you know, it's the same thing throughout history. Another example of that is Saul. You know, he, I lost my train of thought. But anyway,
Okay.
yeah, this is so awesome.
It's okay. We'll come back to you in the next time, Mama Emma.
Yeah.
Hold that thought about Saul. Bring it in the next point. But yeah, very good points. Couldn't agree anymore with you on that. Mama daughter, go ahead.
Yeah. You know the story. I don't know if everybody knows the story with the dog and the bone. So for those who don't know, the dog, he has this big juicy bone. And so he's passing over a little bridge, over a little river, and he looks down in the river and he sees another dog with another bone, but it's just his reflection. So he opens his mouth to snatch the bone from the dog and he loses his bone too. So that's Isolele, unfortunately. You know, when you read Ezekiel 23, when Tatan Zambi talks about it's the story of Ahola and Aholabah, and he said they, you know, I'll read verse 8, it says, neither she left her whoredoms brought from Egypt, for in her youth they lay her and they bruised her breast. Wherefore I have delivered her into the hands of her lovers, into the hands of the Assyrians on whom she doted. And Jeremiah 30:14 says, all thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. And so, you know, Isolele had every single thing. In Ezekiel, it talks about how the daughters of Zion walked with their, you know, with jewels from head to toe, dressed like royalty, basically. And they saw what the Assyrians had, and they wanted it. It's like they didn't have enough, and they wanted it. And they didn't know, you know, that story with the man who was always looking at the other man's lawn across the street, and he kept doing all kinds of stuff to get his lawn green, and he couldn't get it green. And so he went to the man and he's like, how do you keep your lawn so green? He says, I just spray paint it because I got tired of trying. So it's the same thing. It's smoke and mirrors. These people offer you, you know, what they were watching with these other people was smoke. They pretended to be wealthy, in other words, in order to catch them. You know, and Isolele, they found their secret out. They found their secret weapon was obedience to the Most High. Because Isolele is royal blood. So Isolele, when we act in obedience to the word, it comes up out of us. It's built in us. But the minute we disobey, we just lose everything. And so they found out what our secret was, and they made us just like, let's get them to disobey. Let's get them to go against their God, and that's it. Ingita.
Ingeta. Oh my, oh my. Okay, I see Michael's hand. Michael, I'll go right before you. Mine will be brief. So I'm going to share my screen here, and let me set a timer on myself also. All right. So I want to show you guys about the word or the name Kittim. And so I'm sharing on my screen here. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So you can look up the word Kittim in the scriptures in the Bible. You'll see it in these two instances, at least spelled with a K. If you click into it, this is it. It says partial from an unused name denoting cypress. Ah, cypress, only in the plural. Let's take a look at it. It's used 8 times, and the King James translates it as chittim with a C or kittim. The meaning, it says bruisers. That's what it means. They're people who are bruising. Now, I always say treat the explanations here with suspicion, with a grain of salt, but they'll give you some clues. You can look at them. So you can see the information. They're saying all islanders of the Mediterranean Sea. They're also saying they're descendants of Javan, the son of Japheth. Don't worry about that. Look at the definition. Patriot from an unused name denoting cypress. Okay. A Hittite or Cypriot, hence an insider in general. That is, the Greeks or Romans on the shores opposite Palestine. So we're not talking just about Greeks here. It's also Romans. I yield my time back. All right. Think about that. I know I just got Ray fired up. Michael, go ahead.
I can't anymore. You just did it. I was gonna say something about kitten. So I appreciate it. You kind of answered the question and pointed exactly to the same direction. Because I was gonna just say about what we alluded to week before last. That's the same thing that Ray was pointing out about the map and where exactly it is, and also who exactly Kittim is and Geta.
Thank you. Wow. I'll try not to speak before you next time. My bad. Wow. Hey, welcome, Brother Naibu. Good to see you. Welcome. All right. Ray, what's going through your mind right now?
Muted.
You know, in these two chapters, they mentioned Daniel. When he was inspiring his sons, he was mentioning all these great acts. You know, he mentions Daniel, Daniel mentions Alexander. And this is when, well, I'm losing my train of thought again.
I just think it's interesting how the church has thrown out history. That's right there in the book. And so what you do is you say the book of Maccabees is not important, so we're not going to put it in there.
But in the history books, it lines up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Antiochus, there's stories about this guy and what he did. But they're trying to, sorry to cut you off, they're trying to kidnap us for them. That's what, when we look up these stuff online, it's their story, not us, but it's us. They just, you know.
I mean, I even found it funny when you were reading and talking about the different animals. Elephants.
Elephants.
Ain't no elephants in Europe. Ain't no elephants in America. There are no
Ain't no elephants in the Levant. Elephants stay where it's green.
I was gonna say.
I mean, they want to roam in pastures. And when you look at a map, that area up north is arid, it's dry.
Mm-hmm. You know, and I know we've said this so many times. They want our blackness without blackness. Long as it's not melanated, but and then we in turn, we want the Cadillacs, we want the Mercedes, all of the big houses and everything else. And it was funny what you said, Elder Matavi, that was Isolé soft. This is the softness that comes in, is being distracted or entertained. And the word entertain means to keep you from entering in. Basically, that's what it is. And it's to keep the mind so massaged with, you need this house, you need these clothes, you need these shoes, you need this, all of these things. And I think my Mama Royal daughter said last week, she said, you know, I was listening about how certain religions don't want you to wear earrings, makeup, clothing. And there's a reason why. There is a reason why. It is, we've made this stuff competition and the focus, and we've made men the focus. Pastors are falling and we're seeing them fall right before our eyes, and we're so caught up in the entertainment of it all. At one of the churches here, they literally have a slide for baptism. I kid y'all not, on the stage, Mama Rose's daughter, stop it. She laughing so hard. They have, you know, the blow up thing they have in the yard. They have on the stage.
For water baptism.
And for water baptism. And I just kind of looking at it like, what in the world? But this is the idea that, oh my goodness, how are we going to get the youth? How are we going to get them, you know, to do this or whatever? And to pull it together, there is a sifting that's going on right now. There is a big sifting. It's you know, when you're making a cake, you do that first sift. Then when you do the second sift, and you might even do a third sift to make sure it is as fine as possible. And Father is doing a sifting right now where all of, you know, Isolé is concerned. Ishmaelites and all the rest of them, they're going to be, you know, they're out.
The Danites, the Ishmaelites, the Edomites, they're amongst us. They're the tear. And right now, with us reading the book of Maccabees, it's saying, this is how you get the tear off you. I mean, it's like these people are amongst us. Remember, Antiochus, he divided us. He put spies amongst us. And who else amongst us are we going to be relaxed in? People of our same melanin. I mean, they knew, because they were one of us. I mean, to know that, wait a minute, if the great Greek Empire was in the eastern part of Africa, Was Alexander black? I mean, the book, the Bible only speaks of us. Why are they going to talk about an unmelanated man? Why would Daniel mention an unmelanated man? It doesn't add up. To speak of Alexander, when you read about Alexander, there was peace on the earth while he reigned as king. The earth. Alexander ruled the world. He brought peace. And he allowed us, well, no, I ain't gonna speak on that yet. Maybe look it up, because there was a time when the Greeks had dominated us, they allowed us to go back to the word, the books. They called us Hellenized Jews. And that's how Josephus, and that's another story we don't want to talk about. Josephus gave them the keys to the kingdom and rewrote our history for them.
Yes.
Mm.
So in a way, yeah, these Hellenized Jews, the Maccabees, were great, but out of their fruit was Josephus.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray. All right, Mama Emma, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Ray. All praises to the Most High. I was going to mention about Daniel as well, and because I see the ties in the descriptions. See, in the book of Maccabees, it gives us the proper names of people involved, but then after that, it just started using pronouns: them, they, it, you know, and all those kind of things. So, in Daniel, during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, and I just thought, like Ray's, like, I need to look up the meaning of his name, because in my Bibles, the old-fashioned Bibles, they break them down into syllables. Okay, you got Neb, you, Chat, Nez, Zar. Okay, so I know Zar means king. So, but anyway, like I said, and in the book of Daniel, it also mentions Darius. Okay, because that was after the sons, one of the sons of the king had access to the rule, and the Most High visited them and wrote on the wall. And because they had the vessels, they were using the vessels like they described in Maccabees. They used all of those vessels. So when did they do that? And so here you again, a connection back to Daniel. And Daniel had just found the book of the law, remember? And he was reading it and he was saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. Because he said, we've already been here 70 years. But in there was instructions what they were supposed to do. So Maccabees, I think, is, again, another interpretation, a misinterpretation, a lies of what really happened to fit, again, like Ray said, to fit them, which again takes us back to that section in how the Bible is laid out, the end of the Old Testament and the beginning of the New Testament, the dark ages in Geta.
Thank you, Mama Emma. Thank you. Now, when I raise my finger, you got 1 more minute. You don't have
I know,
to
but you know, I
yeah,
keep going.
and I posted some scriptures there from Daniel that I think are the ones you're referencing on the chat there. Daniel 11:25-28. Daniel 11:25-28. Mama Royal daughter, go ahead.
Yeah, the scripture I was referencing was Isaiah 3 from verses 11. It says, woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hands shall be given him. As for my people, children are their oppressors. And when he says children are their oppressors, he means the enemy, because what Isolele has inside of them, there's nobody could compare. Everybody else is a child compared to Isolele. He says, as for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. That's how the Most High looks at our enemies. O my people, they which led thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy path. The Lord standeth up to plead and standeth to judge the people. The Lord will enter into judgment with the ancients of his people and the princes thereof. For ye have eaten up the vineyard, the spoil of the poor in your houses. What mean ye that ye beat my people to pieces and grind their faces, the faces of the poor, said the Lord God of hosts. Moreover, the Lord said, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. Therefore the Lord will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. In that day, the Lord will take away the bravery of their tinkling ornaments about their feet, and their cords and their round tires like the moon, chains and bracelets and the mufflers and the bonnets and the ornaments of the leg and the headbands and the tablets and earrings and the rings and nose jewels, the changeable suits of apparel, the mantles, the wimples and the crispin pins, the glasses and the fine linen, and the hoods and the veil. So can we see how royal these people were? From head to toe, they were dripping with jewelry. Because that's how royalty is. That's royalty. And, because of disobedience, they gave up. And he says, in this chapter, the prophet said, all of these things that you have will become your worst nightmare. That beauty will become a horror to you. Because, our women had to hide their beauty because they were getting raped and killed and plundered. So everything that they had, the Most High said, it will work against you because of your disobedience. And get that.
Wow. 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 That was huge. That was huge. And real. I've read about the scab that they talk about. The women will have the scab. And the scab is in East Africa, we make jokes on ladies, some ladies. We talk about their hairline being very far behind. So it's like they have a very big forehead. That's a scab. And funny enough, once I learned about this a few years ago, I started noticing it, especially amongst the Bantus. And I was like, you can't make this stuff up. The Bantus tend to have it more than the other non-Bantu Africans or people of African descent. It's right there as a sign. Mama Rio daughter has posted something really funny. Mama Margaret, go ahead. You're on mute. Go ahead and unmute.
Yes, I just want to share this a little because I already the Maccabees from the Catholic Bible, so the words are a little different in it here because it's not in other Bible. But what I am seeing here is how they went to our ancestors into Jerusalem and how they take these people. And so this little part it have here is saying they came with impressive force. But when they killed the first king that came to colonize the people, because Matthias was so angry at what they were doing there. But this other one, he came, and they say he came with peaceful words, and they gain the people confidence. But with all that, they always have a different motive behind what they are doing because they know what they came there for. And with all after all the niceties, they fell upon them. They bring a big surge upon the people, they pillage the city and with fire and tore down the houses. And because they had walls there in the city of David. But these people so malicious and wicked They built a whole wall for themselves afterwards. They put up a place for themselves to take all that they could find there. You know, they had their own wicked renegades and letting the people follow them after. They had take everything they loot and they make a wall for themselves and they pack all these things in there for themselves. You see? And the people as well, sometimes in fear, like just as how COVID came, I know some for and some against. So they decide now to follow after these what the king say, okay, you all will all these sinful things they start. When Matthias and his sons were so angry, so they pull themselves away from them. But you know, again, they're coming with sweet words, enticing them and telling them, come forward, come and we will do this for you and we will do that for you, you know. Yes. So Matthias was he angry with his son. So he said, no, he's not going to join it, but the others trying to say, we will respect you and we will do this for you. He's a great man and we will honor you. But the day that's only coming these streets, but that is the reason how the Catholic Church again take over this world, right? They build schools, but this thing was only a way to indoctrinate your kids too and yourself because it's sitting there, blinded. They because I remember the one of the Bibles in my mother time, the Bible wasn't in English, no. They had it covered, but it was not in English. But how you can read something because remember they had stopped people from reading, they didn't want to read, but they want to read words to you. And this is what they have Bible as is not in order to tell you, yeah, they beat out your language, they destroy everything that we had, and they indoctrinate you with these things. But that is the reason why, yeah, they want you to join with them. They want to get comfortable with them. They want to conform to the laws that they make. And you see how they started all these things. But I remember, right, they're saying you could eat pig, so pray over it, and all these nonsense, you know, and people believing in it, you know. But now I come to the understanding, and you know these things were so evil and wicked. It was wicked towards us. And yeah, this is the thing, people they're still going about with this thing. Even if I try to tell them, no, that's wrong. Well, I will eat my pork and say, oh, okay, it's fine, yeah. So the telemetry has come, step forward. You'll be a good leader, you know, and yeah, and we will be a friend. But you know, he was angry because he know it was wrong. He said, okay, okay, let's not embarrass ourselves no more. We die, and the Most High will see that we're going to die for him. We're not going to do this no more because we're not hiding from them. But remember, some to bring what they're witnessing there, some had to hide to come to say what this is what take place, like anything else, you know. So yeah, and this thing's still going on. It is still going on, but people can't see with the eye. We know we are awakened, so we see it is still in the land and it is still taking place. But again, we say time will change and things will change and get
Margaret. Oh my goodness. You know, I like that you brought out that aspect about these things are still going on. You know, they've come into our space, the heathen, the Kafirs have come into our space and they've changed our laws and they've used force, as somebody pointed out before. You know, they've changed our education because they want to keep us lost. They know that as long as we don't know about our identity is rooted in the laws of Tatanzambi, we will stay lost. You know, remember that Isolele, I keep saying this, Jacob went into Egypt as a family. Then Isolele left Egypt and they became a nation when they got their identity at Mount Sinai, when they were given laws by the Most High. That is what gave them their identity. After that, wherever you went in the earth, you would identify Isolele by their practices. They were keeping the Sabbath. You know, they had their dietary laws, they had their clothing laws, they had their social order laws. These were the laws they were given at Mount Sinai. You know, But look at what the successors of Alexander are doing, the Greeks, the Romans. Look at what they're doing. They come in and they try and destroy the temple, get rid of the law. They literally burnt the books. They're so afraid of it. They're so afraid of it. And then, Mama Margaret, you just talked about a different version, you know, of the Bible, the Catholic one. If you look for the King James Version, the authorized King James Version, so 1611, it's in the British Museum. You can get images online of it. Go to the table of contents. It contains the book of Maccabees and 13 other books called the Apocrypha. All 14 books of the Apocrypha are in the original King James Version. So what happened between 1611 and now? They started taking them away. Who are they? The Romans, the Europeans, the colonizers. You know, they first had them there, then now they started taking them away because they want to keep the law away from us. They want to keep this history away from us. But no, 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 we got you. We got you now. You ain't going to run away. We know what our identity is. Welcome, Brother Makudi. Long time. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, Ray, bring it on again. Bring it on.
Hey, Brother Makudi, long time no see. I got a question. How many times was the temple destroyed?
Wow. Mama daughter says 2. I'm thinking this time and the time of 70 AD. And then there's another time in around 130 AD. So I would say 3.
Yeah, it don't make sense. Twice. Nebuchadnezzar also destroyed the temple.
Wow. Yeah.
And we don't notice this timeline with the Maccabees is supposed to be after Daniel. So that's after Nebuchadnezzar. Then it was destroyed again in 70 AD. Something ain't right here. The Ish people saying they're going to rebuild the temple for the third time,
Yeah.
but it was destroyed already 3 times. Right in our faces.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, the only comment I had, did anybody notice that it was the first time I ever saw the word religion in Maccabees, in the book of Maccabees, when I was reading? Talked about how they wanted their sons to not follow their father's religion. And I just find that word so funny that they put religion as the word.
But remember, all this, sorry, all this was written in what, 400 AD. This was all Constantine. That's when he assembled all the lost books and he kept us out. That was the Council of Nicaea. There was like 2 big meetings. He kept us out and rewrote all of this. So first of all, to say Israel, Jews during this time, no, that like I learned from Nkosi, you are called by your father's name. How can I have a name? Wait, how come I'm telling you I'm a Benjamite, but my name comes from Simeon? You know, it don't make sense. So I can't be a Jew and from the family of Benjamin. Jew is supposed to be for only Judah. And Geta. It's just, you know, you see the falseness is in our faces, right and clear. I mean, my goodness.
You know, Ray, that is a very, very important point. And anybody watching this, it's very important to understand definitions. When I did this presentation, some of you may have noticed it. I was not using the word Jews. That was deliberate. Even when I read a scripture or a verse that said Jews, I said Israelites or Isolele. And that is because you have to have the proper understanding of what that word means. The word Jew, in the context of the scriptures, referred to a bloodline of Judah or people who lived in the territory of Judah. And those people included Benjamin, Benjamin's descendants, and of course, some of Levites, because Levites were in every territory.
Simeon.
So when a certain people today refer to themselves as Jews, they're disinheriting the other 11 tribes. You know, if we're looking at the literal sense of the word, because Reuben's children are also Israelites. So are Joseph's. So are Zebulun's, and so on and so forth. You know, Mama or daughter, go ahead.
Yeah, the temple was sacked many times, but it was destroyed twice. The first time was with the Babylonians. They destroyed the temple. The second time was in 70 AD. After the Babylonian captivity, Nehemiah and Ezra, they came back and they built the temple. And then it was destroyed again in 70 AD. But it was sacked many times. They ransacked and they took the jewels, the jewelry, the pots and everything. But it was only destroyed twice. And get that.
Mama or daughter, you are like Simeon that we just read about. In you, there's a lot of counsel. Very good distinction that you made right there. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Okay, am I missing somebody's hand? Mama Emma, go ahead.
Yes, and get to, I wanted to go back a little bit to when Ray and Vanessa was talking about where they go and they give off an aroma, and that's exactly true. We have this aroma that the Most High refers to as, well, the scriptures say they use, of course, Christ. And it's not giving me well, Ephesians 5:2, I think is the verse that I pulled up. And it says, sweet smelling savor, appears in the King James Bible and the New King James Version. It refers to believers being a fragrance of Christ to the Most High, both among those who are saved and those who are perishing. And so what they have done again is use that terminology, and they used it starting when we came out of Egypt, and to introduce us into blood sacrifices, because, you know, eating clean animals and unclean animals, and the lie that they told about Noah, that, you know, that the Most High told him to put clean and unclean animals on there for sacrifice. But again, that contradicts what the Most High told them to do. He said, put food on what they are used to eating. So while they was on the boat, they ate the same thing that they ate before they went on the boat. So now they coming off the boat and they don't have, our Bible said they don't have the greenery. So, but then it says, but it also contradicts itself, because the scripture said Noah built a vineyard. And then they use that against and said, you know, instead of using that as what he probably sacrificed to the Most High, because first fruits, it didn't say first animals, first fruits. And it took time for that vineyard to grow, probably not as long as it takes us now, because the earth was different. So it had completely deteriorated into what it is now. So, but anyway, so that was to me, that was the feast that he was having. That's why he got drunk. He was joyous over the fact that the Most High had given him first fruits, which was probably in the spring, which is now that's happening on the continent, where we have this video of the folks talking about, yeah, we're going to be over here, and Israel is coming to Africa, Cape Coast. I mean, all of this stuff. And you see it also, you see it in this story of the Maccabees. This is just how they wrote it. But like Mama Zola said, we're waking up and we're starting to see and understand this better. the things under the Catholic stuff, and all that they have us doing. She said, bless this, eat it anyway. No, no, we're not supposed to do that. And remember in the temple when they were slaughtering the animals, they had to do incense to cover up the stench of all of that stuff, the blood and probably the poop coming from the animals and all that kind of stuff. So this is the other thing that the Most High keeps showing me. It's like every time this comes, it's like you got to see this duality of the new law that they wrote that keeps us believing that they are going to win, which is the same thing that they're doing right now, right in front of our eyes. Okay, we're gonna GMO the food. We're gonna GMO your baby as soon as they're born. And what's the revelation about the woman with the 12 stars and about to give birth? So what they do is they take and teach it to us spiritualized, but in the natural, they're actually doing that. Women who are birthing the seed of Abram, they're getting ready to GMO them by putting that as soon as they and it's saying the women don't have a choice. They do have a choice. Don't go to the hospital. Don't have birth in those hospitals. You got women who know how to be midwives. Go back to the foundation, so on the continent. So this is what I'm getting excited.
All right. We'll come back to you. Thanks, Mama Emma. I want to piggyback a little bit on what you've just talked about, and I'll come to you, Mama Matuzola. Specifically, when you talked about this is now spring. She's talking about it is spring in the continent. Here in North America, we're in the northern hemisphere. If you take the equator and the other imaginary line called the prime meridian, one is horizontal, one is vertical. They divide the Earth or the planet into 4 quadrants. The northern hemisphere above the equator and the southern hemisphere. And that equator slices Africa in half. Anybody on the northern hemisphere, especially starting from like above the Sahara, including the so-called Middle East, and of course, America and Europe, we have just come out of summer, and now we're going into what we call fall or autumn. But those in the southern hemisphere, and those who are here can attest, like those in Kenya, they're just coming out of their winter. And after the winter, they go into spring. And spring is when the new year starts. So it's very important if you get the calendar dates right or the seasons right, because you will quickly be able to identify where these events in the scriptures were happening. If somebody is talking about that there was snow and it was the 7th month, the 7th month in the northern hemisphere is summer. How can you have snow there? You cannot. But in the southern hemisphere, it's winter. You can have snow. I didn't make the planet. I don't change the seasons. The Most High does. The math gotta add up, even in terms of the climate. And if somebody is not happy with that, send them over to Job 38. Let them answer the questions of who tells the snow or who tells the ocean, how far to go. All right, Mama Matuzola. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to mention something that caught my attention that these books really do make it very simple, easy for us to identify people by way of their culture. Because these scriptures really line up people and culture. I mean, it lines them up perfectly. And so as you were reading, I noticed something that jumped out at me was in chapter 1, where it says, in verse 14, and they say, and they built a place of exercise in Jerusalem, according to the laws of the Gentiles. Now catch that, according to the laws of the Gentiles. When they speak about exercise, don't be remiss, because we're still looking at that today, and we're still seeing the Greek culture relative to this scripture. Because when it say that one, if you look in another translation, it says they built a gymnasium. And I went and I started looking at that, and I came across some information that said Greek's physical exercise was often carried out in nudity. And when you look and couple that with today, if you go to gyms, the people are practically nude. And they brought that out of the gym. They brought the culture of the Greek out of the gymnasium. And now you can't go anywhere without seeing flesh. People walking around in these lewd clothes that used to be what they would wear in the gym, but they walk around with it. Women don't wear underwears. I hate to, sorry for whoever that offends, but you're offended by it every day when you just walk out your door, you see it. And, you know, so we're looking at this Greek culture all around us. This culture is still very much in place, and it's dominating society everywhere. And I just thought that was interesting when I read that verse, because you can see it. There's no missing that. Get them.
Absolutely wonderful, Matuzola. Mama Matuzola, this is the kind of in-depth revelations that we have to bring out. Very good job on that. You know, we don't just read that they went to a place of exercise and let it rest there. No, let's do what you've just did. Elaborate on it so that people can realize what we're talking about. You know, where did these gyms come from? I can tell you, they didn't come from Africa. Because you know what? We were walking, herding our cows. We were chasing animals when we were hunting. You know, we had activities in our villages for ceremonies. We kept fit. You know?
Not to mention our diet. Our diets kept
There you go.
people,
Yep.
physically fit.
Yep. Excellent. Mama Royal daughter, go ahead.
Yes, I want to piggyback on what Matuzola just said about the gym, because there was a lot more than naked people going on in their gym. They brought a culture. Their culture is like you have never seen. We're just starting to see a lot of the Greek culture coming back in. There was a lot of pedophilia. There was a lot of sodomy. There was a lot of stuff going on in their gymnasium. They used to wife swap, and it was nothing to them. You know, the senators used to give their wives to other people to sleep with so that they can get favors. It was a whole culture of sexual perversion. You know, even the generals, they had little boys, you know, that they would supposedly train, but they would sodomize these little boys. And these boys would in turn grow up and become generals and repeat the cycle. So it was not just a culture, was not just going to the gym. The gym was the place they went to get away from home, to engage in all kinds of all kinds of acts. Ingeta.
Ngeta. Thank you. Thank you, Mama daughter. Okay. Ray and Vanessa, is your hand up?
You got something to say? All right.
Okay.
Michael hand is up.
Okay, Michael, go ahead.
Say something about the gym aspect as well, the gymnasium aspect. The first thing I thought about was that wrestling, and it went to this Roman Greco wrestling, and then I thought also about how the Colosseum, they doing all this killing, and then them being so sexually outward, just bringing everything out into the public eye. And I say, well, shoot, I guess their whole culture was of that sexual perversion outwardly. How my brother was talking about the military aspect, like grooming them to continue, the same stuff, and it being out as an acceptance. You know, you really that pervasive version that you impress upon to take that hue that it isn't good. I mean that it isn't bad. Do a job as thou wilt. Easily to be led, to be enslaved. So that gymnasium whole aspect, it was kind of big. It was the whole thought of it, that filth and perversion outwardly. Let's look upon it. Uh, let's let's put it up, or let's go and look at it together. That's that's so weird, but it is true. And get it.
Ngeta. I drew a parallel. In the verse before that, it said, and certain of the people, this is chapter 1, verse 13, and certain of the people were forward herein. I understand that to mean they were bold-faced. They just went up straight up and asked for what they wanted. And so they went to the king and he gave them license. This is political authorization by the king to do after the ordinances of the Gentiles. Think about today. What parallels do you see? They'll go to Congress and ask for the same. They'll go to the United Nations and make it a right. And then they'll come to the land and try and tell us, you gotta allow this as well. And if you do, we'll keep supporting you through our financial institutions. And if you don't, we're gonna pull back our funds. This is what was going on, All right, Mama Emma.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I want to read the scriptures that refer to the duality of the sweet smell and savor. 2 Corinthians in the so-called New Testament, which is where they are taking the truth and perverting it. So this is what it says, starting at verse 14. But thanks be to the Most High, Tatan Zamin, Sanini Nanini, who always leads us triumphantly as captives in the Savior, and through us spreads everywhere the fragrance of the knowledge of Him. Who do we look like? Whose image are we made in? And His likeness. For
Mama,
we are
Mama Emma, sorry, excuse me. What chapter are you in?
2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15. Well,
Okay.
I started with 14.
Okay, carry on.
Verse 15, for we are to the Most High a sweet smelling aroma of the Savior among those who are being saved and those who are perishing. To the one we are an odor of death and demise, to the other a fragrance that brings life, and who is qualified for such a task. Okay, so again, the things that you are saying, well, I'm gonna read the rest of these scriptures. Numbers 15. And you present an offering made by fire. Okay, remember who was talking about here? To the Lord from the herd or flock to produce a pleasant aroma to the Lord, either a burnt offering or a sacrifice, or a special vow, a free will offering of appointed feasts. Okay, so to me, what the Most High is saying right here, this is not our Most High saying this. But anyway, Song of Solomon saying what the Most High is saying about us. The fragrance of your perfume is pleasing. Your name is like perfume poured out. No wonder the maidens adore you. Okay, Ezekiel, when I bring you from the peoples and gather you from the lands to which you have been scattered, Ezekiel 20:41, I will accept you as a pleasing aroma, and I will show my holiness through you in the sight of the nations. So what is he telling us? We are, because we represent him, we are his praise. We are made in his likeness. There's no darkness in him. There's no foul smells in him. We don't have to cover up. Once we are cleansed by the washing of his words, we are that sweet smelling savor to him. That's what he's saying. And he's going to do that. What he says, for anything that he hasn't done for us already, he's going to cleanse our blood, and he's going to give us a new name. He's going to give us his name, his true name at this point. Okay, anyway, so that's the understanding that he's giving me about this duality. And you all just explained this, like the gym and the war and what's happening right now in our faces, what they want to do. Again, because I came into the awakening that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in these last days. And so in these last days, in the days of Noah, in the 1711 map, it shows them roasting our people, eating them, drinking the blood, and all those kinds of things. And they have brought that all the way through this thing. Okay, and then the other thing is like, when you was explaining that, it's like about what's the day, what they're doing is when they offer sanctions, it's not so much the money anymore. They're telling them that you're going to end up like the other ones that they killed, that they told us were killing our people. I can't think of their names, but anyway, you all know who I'm talking about. So that's what they don't want to lose their life. They are scared. So they rather do what they're doing so that they don't get mutilated.
Yep. In fact, I would draw a parallel. You remember in the story, Matadi was offered gold and silver, he and his sons, so that they could be the first to perform the commandments of the king, right? Just look around a lot of the nations in the land where we have puppet leaders. Why do some of those presidents in the land have secret bank accounts offshore? It's because that's where they receive the gold and silver that they're being offered, right? Just like they offered it to Matathia and his sons, But look at what happens if the leadership refuses those things and speaks up boldly against them. Burkina Faso is a good example. I think it's Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, one of those, I forget. But yeah, Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore has said, get out. Get out, all of you. Not just one, not just the French, not just the Americans, the Germans as well. He said, get out. If we stand up, say something about it, and then do something about it, those around us are also gonna stand up, say something about it, and do something about it. This is going on in Kenya right now. You know, individuals started speaking up, then they went and protested, and now it spread like a wildfire. The government quashed the protests, you know, they abducted people, made them disappear, and so on and so forth. But now individuals all around the country picking up their phones, and they're going and they're highlighting and saying, there was a project here, so much money was spent on it. Look, there's no project. They didn't build a school, they didn't build a hospital. And now you have, I mean, the government is dealing with tens of people. Soon it's going to be thousands of people. In fact, those in Kenya, if you can correct me, but I believe on Monday, there's going to be a nationwide protest by the universities. Several universities have said they're going out to the streets because they don't like some new proposals for funding the education system. Those are the Matadi and the Sons. Before you know it, maybe another country will say, no, enough of this. Kick out these Gentiles who are corrupting us. Okay, Mama Ray or daughter, you see they got me excited. Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to say, when they did sacrifices, it wasn't just a messy, bloody affair and, you know, blood stinking up the place and all of that. Satan Zambi is a god of order. And, you know, the sacrifices were done outside the temple and they were offered on an altar outside the temple. The incense was burned inside the temple in the holiest of holies. So one thing had nothing to do with the other. And the priests that did the sacrifices were not the priests that went into the Holy of Holies. And they had to cleanse themselves. They had, last week I was reading that they built a sea, they called it a sea, a whole pool, so that the priests could cleanse themselves, which was different from the cleansing of the people that came into the temple. So it wasn't just a messy, bloody affair that, you know. So I don't want people to go away with the idea that they were just sacrificing animals anyhow. It was all in order. It was done outside the temple, and they had to be burned outside the temple. And he said, burn the fat for a sweet smelling savor. So it wasn't just like a crazy affair that you just spread blood all over and everybody's bloody from head to toe. No, it wasn't like that. Tatan Zambi has order. And the other thing that I wanted to say before I go is about, Brother Michael spoke about the Colosseum. And it brought back to mind with me how they used to use our people, Isolele, to fight in the Colosseums, fight these animals, because they knew it was our gift. You know, Judah had the spirit of might upon him. We read in Daniel, you know, how Daniel went in with the lion. He wasn't even afraid. David killed a lion. Samson just ripped apart a lion. Our people had superpower, super strength. And so they used to go, let them go fight in the Colosseum, and they used to come watch them for sport. And they used to let them fight lions and animals for sport. And I mean, it was Isolele. It was our people. We're the only people that could do that. And they literally have to fight for their life because it's always going to be a fight to death. That somebody had to die, and these people would come with their families to watch this horrific scene in Geta.
Oh my. Oh my. Now you got Ray awake, completely awake. You know? Yes.
I mean, look, we're excited by sport today. We go to arenas to watch humans, and as a former athlete, you kill your body. the things that these young men and young women feel in their late 30s. They have a body of an 80-year-old. They've been cut open so many times. It is a gladiator situation we still in.
It's gladiator mentality, even where women are concerned, especially Black women. And my mother was a midwife, and they got the best care when we took care of them. Now that we're in hospitals and you think, oh, they have the technology, they have this, they have that. Black women, and especially Black women, are the lowest cared for, die mostly in childbirth. Why are we dying in childbirth when our ancestors would be in labor, stoop down, put that baby out, break the umbilical cord, wrap that baby up and throw it on their back and continue to move on?
And they say, oh, because we Black people, especially women, oh, you have a high
You have a
threshold.
high, yeah. They often tell the patient, oh, they have a very high threshold for pain. And so they don't need epidurals. They don't need, and first of all, here in America, especially here in America, we don't give birth correctly. That a woman should be stooping down instead of laying back, as white women do, lay back and have a baby. This is why they couldn't take care of this. Is, when I told y'all about an incident where I had a woman call me lazy. And I kind of tore into her with, no, your mother was lazy in that she would not put you on her own breast and connect with you, but that you laid on a Black woman's breast and connected with her, and you want to call her mama. And then you get to disrespect that same woman that you ate from, because you didn't eat from your mama. And this is their attitude and continual attitude, where we are concerned that we are still on the books 3/3, I think, of 3/5 of a human being.
Yeah.
What is that? So you know what? You can have your pig heart, your pig kidneys. You can do all the operations and oh, we have a monkey's heart and a monkey brain in a man. Not a Black man.
He's what you call those new transhumans.
Exactly. But this is what they want to ram down our throats. And even how it's sad, the church has even embraced this foolishness. I have seen more pastors and their wives walking around in clothing that is so uncomely that you just turn around and go, wait a minute, you said you were a pastor's wife. And me and Ray, really quick, saw a video of a pastor's wife who talked about how she sings sexy songs to men. And the church is okay with it. They're okay with it. But this is how the enemy just seeps into the camp. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. A little bit.
But remember, we're still growing with the Edomites, the Ishmaelites, and the Danites. They're amongst us. That's just the way it is. Until the sifting is complete, they're here.
And get the
Brother Michael, go ahead. Go ahead. But very good points, Vanessa and Ray. Very, very good points. I mean, Michael, sorry, before you go ahead, this story is for me, so significant. We've read about Joshua in the book of Joshua when he said, as for me and my house, we will serve the Most High, right? Then here we see Matadi saying, as for me and my sons, and not only does he say it, he goes ahead to demonstrate it. One loose nut tries to go and make a sacrifice, and he takes him out. And then he goes ahead and leads Isolde in fighting for their laws, right? This is the scenario we're in. In our own environments, we are the ones saying, we are the people. Church, wake up. Stop telling them that they're the people. That's you getting up and fighting. And as long as you can say, as for me and my house, I'm going to do that, that's how we're going to make a change in all this. Okay. Michael, go ahead.
and get them. You know, with them being portrayed as very, very stand up, stand out guys, and I'm talking about the Maccabees. What um, what is really highlighted to me, and I'm gonna say it because it's the truth. They act, and certain men, you know, we only gonna follow certain things, and I think myself is one of them. I'm not finna go out here. Not gonna catch me marching about anything. You know, it's not like I'm lazy or anything. But when it comes to the right thing to do what's right, I ain't see too many people that would stand up for that. You know, and I used to get ridiculed for it. You know, even standing up for the little kid to get railed in school. You know, and I went to a gifted school, but I still could fight. I didn't really have to fight there, and that, you know, I'm smarter than you. But I know, you know, in my neighborhood, it was it was different. But when you did get a glimpse of someone who would stand up for just for what's right, you know, how come they get ridiculed when they do it with force? Because you got to answer that with the same thing. You know, I didn't see a lot of praise going to a lot of the people who just answered back with just initial response. But in this Maccabees, my man has sons, and to invoke something, it wasn't, I'm just swinging a finger and telling you, it was action. And when he finally had enough and said, you know, I'm not gonna do this, me and my son. And that total defiance when the other person came to call himself in sacrifice. That man wasn't mad at him. But you're not finna disrespect Creator and His truth and what we're standing for in His law. And I'm telling y'all right now, and it's gonna be someone that look like me that's gonna do this. It doesn't matter. It ain't me that's doing this. It's not me that's taking offense. We are not finna go against the laws no more. And if I have to smash one of you out and everybody else, then so smash on. And you want to talk about somebody who's gonna follow? I'll be right on with you. Because one of the things that really stood out to me a couple years ago when I read this, throughout the scriptures, it's one thing always got into me. And I just be, you know, I'm be for real. The ones who prayed first before they went to smash it was always my guys. Always. Because they went and they asked. And in his word, he always tell them, I'll go before you. Oh, you ain't gotta fight. You ain't gotta fight. I'll do it. You know, you don't even gotta fight. But sometimes I'll let you loose on. You just gonna come ask me. Be obedient. David, you know, Samson, the Maccabees. I'll let you go and give it to him because you did it the right way. I'm gonna stop right there because you know this my story right here because it really does hit somewhere that I really relate to and get to.
Oh my. Michael, I knew you would love this book. And the reason I said that, I just got reminded while you're speaking. You all remember when I talked about Michael, Michelle, Shelley, Archangel Michael? What did we learn about them? They're fierce. You know, Michael's just been himself. You know, he's just exhibiting that spirit. He ain't gonna stand around and just let you mess around, you know, because he carries the spirit of the Most High. And he's gonna use his ferocity like Archangel Michael, you know. You could be Abraham, you could try and be gangster, you know. He'll go check with the Most High on how to deal with you. You know, that is who we are, Isolele. That is who we are, you know. Just be who you are created to be, you know. And we're not gonna struggle with this anymore. No, we're not. Okay, I know we're up on time. Now, I'll show you guys one more thing before we go to the break. Then we'll go to the break and come back. And I see two hands, Mama, three hands, Mama Emma, Mama, daughter Vanessa. We talked about the Colosseum, right? Did you guys know there's a Colosseum in Tunisia?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Tunisia is in Africa?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me just share this before we close so that those who will watch online will have something to look up. So I'm sharing the screen here. I'm on Google. I'm looking for Colosseum in Tunisia. And the first result is from UNESCO, United Nations agency. And it shows an amphitheater. And this is it. So you can look at more details when it was constructed and things like that. How many Colosseums are there in the world? Well, let's look at this in Tunisia. Let's look at some of the photos. This is it. Looks like the one in Rome, I guess. I mean, look at that. Built in 230 something AD. That's a long time ago, right? So what were the Romans doing in Tunisia? And what kind of sport were they doing here? Parading who? To fight animals. I can tell you they were not parading their fellow Romans, you know. And if they were in Africa, they had access to those animals. That's a video. Oh, okay. Somebody took a walk inside there. Anyway, I'll switch some pictures here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you find this content helpful.